So now it's time for us to create stories in Einstein Discovery. And you see Albert here searching for stories, and there are none because we haven't created any yet. And so we can click Create Story from here, or from the data sets, we could actually select a data set from the Datasets tab that we want to create a story from. And so I'm going to select the AP Dist data set to create a story, and this will be one of the trails and trailhead trails that you'll complete later in this course. And so I want to show you what that looks like. And so if we click the down arrow for that particular data set that was derived from Trailhead, you can select Create Story from Dataset right here, or you could go in and view the data set. And here's where we did the edits and changes to the data set previously, not to this particular data set, but to others. So this is the edit screen for a data set and the setup screen. But here at the top right is this create button. And so if you click on that, that's how you create a story from a data set. And so you've got this selection here, and it defaults to maximize the variable of margin in this particular AP Dist data set. Now, Salesforce has been very helpful in setting up a data set that is very user-friendly and gives you some actionable insights, very clean data to work with. Now, a lot of times that's not the case, and you've got to massage the data a little bit before you can get a really clean story generated. So I wanted to start with one that would be presentable from the beginning at least. And then from there, in later sections, we'll edit stories and do executive summaries and those sorts of things. And so just briefly, though, in the story setup screen, you have these options to do different things or to create these stories. And basically what you're doing here at the top is specifying the goal or the purpose or the theme of this story that you're creating. And so we're wanting to maximize margin. If we wanted to instead minimize a value, you could select minimize. And then you've got these different variables from your data set available to you, and this will vary based on the data set that you're working with. So we've got margin, and then as well we have percent silver and percent gold. These are discount levels, but we're going to keep these the default of margin, and we're trying to maximize the margin in this data set. Now as well, down here we've got transaction type is transactions. We've got date options, analyze changes over time, and the date field is the close date, and you can say I want to compare by month. You could instead change the date field if there were other date fields. There's not in this data set, so they're limiting your options there. But you could look at this changes over time, daily, monthly, quarterly, or yearly. I'm going to take the defaults for now, and then there's one actionable variable selected. If you click on that, you could select up to 3 actionable variables such as distributor or product. I'm just going to leave that at the discount level. And then the model settings, we're enabling predictive analytics, and we're also selecting to perform k-fold validations. So if you click on these, you can actually also use logistic regression. That's not selectable on this one, so I'm not sure why. Or let's see if we can deselect these. You can deselect these. This one is read-only. I'm sure there's some data scientists that could explain to me why this is obvious, why we can't do logistic regression. But what I'm going to need to do is even look up k-fold validation. And so that's what's nice about Einstein Discovery. It's your data scientist on call with clicks instead of code. And obviously I'm not a data scientist, so that's why I'm using Einstein Discovery and why I think you'll find it so appealing as well. So variables and values, 7 of 7 selected. If you click on this, you could deselect some of these, but I'm just going to click OK. And so now we're going to go through the process of creating our story. Now that you've got everything set, we're wanting to maximize margin, and we've done all of our settings. We're going to click Create Story and prepare yourself for a cute little animation of Einstein doing the math and the light bulbs going off, and it's creating a story. Now this does take some time. It's saying we'll email you once it's done so you can sit back and relax. It's pretty amazing the amount of statistical evaluations and things that are being drilled down upon by Einstein. There's literally millions, if not billions, of combinations that are being performed in the cloud, depending on the size of your data set. And you see here that there's 1,163 graphs and drill downs being evaluated. There's statistical tests being done and completed. And it's showing that there's been 16 patterns that have been detected. And now it's evaluating improvement opportunities. And so it's telling a story. And so Einstein Discovery is taking a data set, and now that you've got it set up, imported, and configured, and you've created your story, and we're wanting to maximize margin and told the parameters that we're wanting to work within, Einstein Discovery is then identifying the improvements that can be made. And now that it's done, it's going to present the findings. And so there's a lot going on here on this screen, and we're not going to go into all this right now, but this is kind of a good point to kind of take a step back and look at what we have. And so just in general, we've got our screen here, and there's different average margins by product. You see in this, we have the different products such as planetary gears and rotor screws and alternators, clutches, etc. And then the average margin between 10 and 60%. And so you can click on some of these to see more information. I clicked on belt drives, it highlights orange, and it gives the average, etc., data points around that. And then it also reveals things about alternators. For example, they have a worse than average margin, and it tries to, or attempts to, explain why that is and give some data points around that. And then as well, if you scroll down, there's margin by product when distributor is Nisizu, and then more details beyond that. We've created our story now in Einstein Discovery, and it is quite the story. We can make adjustments to a story, we can edit a story, we can add insights, and we can also ultimately create executive summaries and play those. And we can also share these with others, which are things that we're going to be doing in upcoming lectures. And so as I scroll down, you see that there's just a lot of data that is being exposed through this. And so we're going to be going more in depth in a lot of these sorts of graphs and what these shaded things mean and color coding, and then even the recommended insight options as far as what happened and what changed over time, why it happened, etc. And these buttons here as well, such as story setup, and then we'll be going into that when we talk about editing a setup. And the executive summary, we'll be getting into this, and the sharing will be this as well. So stay tuned as we next edit a story and add insights inside of Salesforce Einstein Discovery.